Good evening, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back to the Matt Adams Show. I've been on retreat for a while, taking a break from social media. I hope you're doing great. So, starting off in the new season, let's talk about why spiritual practice and a spiritual path in general is practically of value for your life. Because ultimately, everything we do every day is a spending of our time, our money, and our resources, our energy. So if we don't see practical value in spiritual practice, there's not much point, which is why a lot of people don't do it or are very sort of lazy with it. The challenge, of course, is that we look at the news and we're surrounded by a society where there's so much violence, there's so much madness, and 30, 40, whatever percentage of American adults, for example, are taking some kind of medication for depression and anxiety, which is not a judgment because I used to take those medications too. But, there's something obviously wrong internally and externally that we are having so much difficulty finding joy and peacefulness and happiness in our everyday life. And one of the biggest problems, and I experienced this for a long time myself, is that our life is completely a projection of our mind. The Buddha said it, everything is impermanent. All of this is, atoms and molecules bouncing around. It looks very real, but it is all changing constantly. And so your relationship with it is all dependent on the way that you are looking at it. And the way that you are looking at it is very dependent on the thoughts that have been pumped into your brain, into your spirit over time. And what happens is it becomes very difficult to figure out which thoughts and actions based on those thoughts are genuinely your own versus which ones are conditioned by society, by family, by friends, by advertising, by whatever, conditioned so that you actually choose things that make you unhappy and make choices that have negative karmic impact on you, and you do it unconsciously because you can't even differentiate in your mind what's really you and what is sort of this stain on top of your naturally beautiful, compassionate mind. So the Buddha proved, as did Jesus or any great spiritual master, that it's possible for a normal human being to achieve complete peace and connection with God, or the divine, or Shambhala, Nirvana, whatever you want to call it. Okay? And the Buddha himself said that it's possible for everybody. But yet, we have gone 2,500 years since the time of the Buddha to a time now where, despite the fact that all great teachings, spiritual teachings, are out there and alive, and we have great technological progress, we have all these amazing things, spiritually, we've never been at a time that's more degraded, with more violence and more fear and more chaos. And so we need to really get back to a spiritual path that works. So the good thing about, I don't even like the word Buddhism because I don't, yes, there are forms of Buddhism that are very religious, but let's just talk about what the Buddha taught as a secular philosophy for a moment. A secular technique for a person from any religion or faith to help walk the spiritual path. So what are those things? Recognizing the law of impermanence, that everything is changing, that nothing is forever. Recognizing that grasping and clinging to things that are not good for us causes suffering. Recognizing that aversion, pushing away things that we really need to do, causes suffering. Recognizing the law of karma, or the golden rule if you're Christian, that everything that you do comes back to you one way or the other. And even if you don't believe in reincarnation, it comes back to you in this life. And for the people who bet that there is no reincarnation and no heaven or hell, and act accordingly and hurt people and kill and steal and do all the things they do, they better hope they're right that there's no reincarnation. Unfortunately, Jesus talked about heaven and hell, Muhammad talked about it, the Buddha talked about it, Padmasambhava, every great teacher. So these people that are deluding themselves into saying that there is no future, that there's no consequence to their evil actions, they're making a big gamble, and if they're wrong, they're gonna pay. And it's a very frustrating thing for, you know, we spiritual people in the new age to be told by teachers that there is no evil, that there is no darkness, that everything is love and light and wonderful. Why don't you, these guys, a teacher said it the other day, and thousands of followers and all these people living on their cloud, everything is beautiful. I would love to take that teacher and all those followers to a brothel in Cambodia where you have, young children in sex slavery, and you tell me that there's no evil in the world and that we should just live on our cloud. Acting like that and thinking in that way is, number one, the biggest karmic trap you can ever get into, because it's deluding yourself into thinking there is no right and wrong. There is no karma, everything is just perfect, everything is God and wonderful. No, this life is about karma. It's about choosing up or down, choosing between the good path and the not so good path. So, ultimately, we have to realize that, yes, we want to be compassionate people. Yes, we want to go for the principles of nonviolence whenever possible, but we also as spiritual people have to be strong. If we are not strong, who is going to stand up for justice in this world? Who is going to go into that brothel and get those kids out? Apparently not the light workers sitting on a cloud, because they're too busy pretending that everything is love and light. True compassion is getting off your butt and figuring out what you can do to make this world a better place. And it all starts with the spiritual path, a meditation practice, yoga, whatever, that allows you to unhook your mind from the matrix of garbage that the whole world has pumped into you, and find your true self. Find something within you that does not depend on anyone else for self-esteem, that doesn't depend on anyone else for direction. There is something within you, just like me, that always knows what to do. It's just covered over by a lot of mud. But with good practice and effort and determination and a truly compassionate vow to use your liberation for the good of all beings, you will find that thing within yourself that will always lead you no matter what anybody else around you says. I hope that's helpful. Send me a message if you need help. Check out my website, mattadamsglobal.com, and I wish you many blessings. Take care.